Okay, let's unpack this for just a minute. Forget all the complexity, forget the jargon about ETFs, bonds, crypto. Today we are deep diving into the ultimate throwback financial guide,
Yay!
The Richest Man in Babylon. And this isn't just a book. It's really a foundational text for personal finance, built entirely on parables and, well, ancient wisdom.
It really is. The sources we looked at describe it as one of the most influential books on wealth ever written. And it's precisely because it strips away all that modern confusion. It just delivers these powerful foundational principles about wealth, about saving and investing through these short, story-driven parables set thousands of years ago in ancient Babylon.
I have to ask this right up front, though. How does wisdom that comes from, trading actual clay tablets and gold coins,
Yeah.
how does that manage to be so relevant today? I mean, we're dealing with digital currency, with high-frequency trading. Shouldn't we need algorithms and AI, not parables about shepherds? Yeah.
Well, because the core truth of human behavior around money, it just hasn't changed. Not since we invented debt. The sources all confirm this central, enduring promise. Wealth is built through discipline, focused saving, wise investing, and this is the crucial part, patience. It's not about luck. These are timeless habits. So what we're really studying here is financial psychology, not market mechanics.
Right. So our mission for you, the listener, is to distill these foundational rules and to do it quickly. We're structuring this deep dive, just like the audiobook itself, so story-driven, easy to follow. The goal is to make sure you feel instantly well-informed without having to, slog through a ton of information. We're giving you the shortcut.
Exactly, the shortcut to the bedrock. And that audiobook experience you mentioned is key. The reviews we saw note the calm, clear narration, and that story format makes for incredibly high retention. It's really designed for the finance beginner, someone who might be intimidated by technical books, but is really open to learning through these relatable stories.
And the central message itself is just so wonderfully democratizing. It's basically saying anyone, regardless of their current income, can achieve financial stability. You just have to follow these basic money principles. It's the same advice for the slave and the merchant.
It is. And the entire philosophy of the book, I mean, the whole engine of wealth, it all hangs on one foundational, non-negotiable rule.
The concept that everyone knows, but almost everyone struggles to actually execute. Key lesson 1, pay yourself first. It sounds so obvious, but let's detail the instruction because the timing is everything.
Right. The book repeatedly uses this metaphor of 10 bags of gold, and it insists that you must set aside at least 1/10 of everything you earn. But the critical behavioral shift is that this money has to be saved the instant it arrives. Before the merchant, before food, before rent, you pay yourself first.
So you're essentially treating your future self like your most important creditor. I mean, you wouldn't skip paying the king's tax collector or your landlord, so why would you skip paying the person who's going to rely on that money down the road?
Exactly. But here's the challenge, right? For you, the listener, listening today. In our high cost of living world, isn't telling someone to save 10% before taxes, rent, and groceries? Isn't that a little unrealistic?
That's the skepticism the book totally anticipates. It argues that if you truly commit to saving that 1/10, you'll discover that you can live perfectly well on the remaining 9/10. It's a behavioral trick. Most people spend based on their income, not their actual need. So the moment you hide that 10%, your brain just adjusts. It adjusts your budget to the new, smaller number, and you realize you probably didn't need it for spending anyway.
That's the psychological brilliance of it, and it creates the foundation, that seed money that starts compounding. But, that saving is worthless if your expenses just consume everything else. And this is where we transition into key lesson 2, control your expenses.
And what's fascinating here is how the book distinguishes between basic needs and what we now call lifestyle creep, that insidious creeping nature of desire.
Yeah, the book draws a very sharp line between necessary expenses, what you actually need to live, and what it calls lifestyle desires. And those desires are just the things we acquire because our income went up, so we feel, entitled to a higher standard of living, even if our basic needs haven't changed at all.
Think about it this way. The Babylonian citizen didn't need 3 different chariot subscription services or premium date delivery. But the modern learner might have 3 streaming services, a gym membership they don't use, and that daily $5 artisanal coffee habit.
And the warning is stark. It's universal. Even people who earn substantially more can stay poor if their lifestyle desires grow faster than their income. The book gives that example of the man who gets a big inheritance but ends up poorer than when he started, all because he lacked expense control.
It makes perfect sense. If you suddenly earn double your salary, but you immediately upgrade your apartment, finance a much more expensive car, and double your entertainment budget, you haven't actually moved forward financially.
No.
You've just increased the floor of your necessary expenses.
No. Because the ancient Babylonians understood that desires are infinite. They will always fill the available space. So the key isn't deprivation. It's deliberate budgeting. You have to plan for your necessary expenses within the 9/10 you have left, instead of letting impulse dictate your spending.
That makes perfect sense. So once you've mastered the saving habit, that sacred tenth, and you've controlled the 9/10 left over, you have a growing reserve of capital. But here's where it gets really interesting, because just saving, just stuffing that gold under the mattress, that's not enough. You have to make that gold go to work.
And this is key lesson 3. Make your gold multiply. The book shifts your mindset here from, let's say, passive accumulation to active participation. Your money has to be invested, protected, and put to work so it generates its own income, which is really just the ancient Babylonian way of saying compounding returns.
Yeah, and this is explained so well with that little story about Arcad, the richest man in Babylon. When he started, he saved his tenth, and he lent it to a brickmaker to buy supplies. The brickmaker later paid him back with interest, and then Arcad used that interest to buy more supplies for another tradesman.
And that simple action, using the interest to generate more interest, that's the heart of compounding. It's geometric growth versus just linear saving. However, the book immediately follows that encouragement with some really stern warnings.
Yes, it spends a lot of time warning you away from bad investing, which leads us directly into key lesson 4. Protect yourself from loss.
The book cautions against exactly what we see today. The get-rich-quick schemes, untrusted or inexperienced advisors, and this is a big one, emotional investing. Chasing the newest, shiniest thing just because everyone else is doing it.
Right. The Babylonian version of a cryptocurrency meme coin was probably some scheme to turn sand into gold with magic incantations. The lesson is exactly the same. The promise of unreasonable returns usually involves unreasonable risk.
Precisely. The core message of protecting your gold is due diligence. Don't invest in what you don't understand. If you can't fully grasp the mechanism by which your money is supposed to multiply, if you can't explain it simply, you should just keep your principles safe. And the second half of this lesson is critical, avoiding bet traps, which can just wipe you out.
In Babylon, that might have been predatory loans from the temple. Today, it's high-interest credit card debt, payday loans. If your interest payments on debt are higher than the returns you're getting from your investments, you are financially moving backwards.
But this is why seeking advice from experienced, successful professionals is paramount. The book tells you to seek advice from people who regularly handle and grow money, not from your excited cousin who just found a sure thing.
Right. If you can't explain the investment to a child, you shouldn't be making it. Okay, now we move into the final 3 lessons, which often get rushed in summaries, but are so critical for long-term stability. They really broaden the definition of wealth beyond just a number in an account.
They do. These lessons focus entirely on securing your future, your foundation, your peace of mind, and your ability to earn more.
Key lesson 5. Make your home profitable. The text notes that owning a home significantly reduces your long-term living costs, because once the purchase is done, you eliminate your single biggest recurring expense, which for most people is rent. It puts financial security before luxury.
Owning a roof over your head provides a massive psychological and financial stability. It allows the saved money from lesson 1 to compound so much faster because a huge chunk of your 9/10 is no longer flowing out to a landlord. It's the ancient way of saying, if you settle your primary dwelling, you build a fortress against financial worry.
And that stability links directly into key lesson 6. Ensure a future income. This is all about preparing for life certainties like old age and life's uncertainties like emergencies.
It's the Babylonian guide to retirement planning and insurance. It's really that simple. It involves setting aside specific funds for old age, establishing an emergency fund, making sure your family is secure. The book defines lasting wealth not just by the size of your fortune today, but by your ability to sustain peace of mind tomorrow.
I really appreciate that definition. It's not about how much you have in some flashy account. It's about how much you don't have to worry about when life, inevitably throws you a curveball. But I want to spend extra time on lesson 7 because I think it's the most underrated and honestly, maybe the most crucial concept in the entire book.
Key lesson 7, increase your ability to earn. While all the other lessons focus on managing the gold you already have, this lesson focuses on the single greatest source of gold you will ever possess, yourself.
This is the growth mindset applied to finance. It's that simple. It demands continuous learning, skill improvement, self-discipline, and it's a powerful realization. Your capacity to earn grows only when you grow.
If you stay stagnant in your abilities, if you just stick to the skills you learned 10 years ago, your income and your capacity to save and invest will eventually hit a ceiling. The greatest investment you can make is always in yourself, whether that's learning a new trade, improving your communication skills, going back to school.
It teaches that if you're willing to sacrifice some comfort or time now to learn a highly valuable skill, that skill will generate more gold in the long run than almost any quick investment scheme you could chase. And in the modern economy, with jobs constantly changing, this lesson is more vital than ever.
Ah.
You have to constantly sharpen your own tools.
Precisely. So if we contextualize the book's overall value now, the strengths are just undeniable. It's got extremely simple language, timeless behavioral wisdom, and this story-based learning that is just perfect for a beginner.
We should be clear, though. This is not advanced investing advice. If you're a seasoned trader, this won't teach you how to analyze quarterly earnings reports. It lacks modern tools. And for someone already steeped in finance, yeah, the repetitive nature of the parables might feel a little slow.
But that repetition is actually the secret sauce. I really believe that. The simplicity and the repetitions serve this powerful habit-forming purpose. They reinforce these core behavioral rules until they become automatic, which is the entire goal of any foundational discipline. The book focuses purely on changing behavior, and that's the hardest part of finance.
Which means this deep dive confirms what the sources claim. This audiobook is perfectly targeted. If you're a beginner, a young professional, or just anyone tired of complex finance books and struggling with basic saving discipline, this is the blueprint for your starting line.
It simplifies a concept, wealth building, that our society often just loves to overcomplicate with all this excessive technical detail.
So what does this all mean? Our final verdict, pulling from the insights, is a solid 9 out of 10. The Richest Man in Babylon is a financial classic because it never gets old. Because human nature never gets old.
You might forget complex modern financial jargon, but you will absolutely retain 3 core habits from this deep dive. First, pay yourself first without fail. Make it your most important debt. Second, control your expenses by distinguishing need from desire. And third, make that saved money work for you safely and intelligently.
The source material is remarkably confident. It claims that if you apply even one lesson from this book, your financial life will improve. And that's a powerful guarantee, one that's rooted in millennia of human experience.
It provides the psychological blueprint. The execution, though, the discipline, that's up to the individual.
So to leave you with a final, provocative thought, let's go back to lesson 7. Increasing your ability to earn. We always talk about saving 10%, but what about investing that 10% back into yourself? Challenge yourself to identify one new high-demand skill or certification you could get in the next 6 months. Calculate the monetary return on investment of that skill versus the cost of your last luxury purchase. What discipline from ancient Babylon are you going to apply today to reverse the trend of stagnant earning and make your own human capital the focus of your next great investment? Think about that as you go forward.